This is my Peugeot 307 2007 1.6 petrol version, and what I recently noticed is that sometimes my cruise control doesn't work. When I'm traveling like that and I press the switch on the cruise control, these three dashes just blink and the cruise control doesn't engage at all. And this was an intermittent fault. From time to time it switches off. So then what I realized is that I tested my rear brake lights, and what happens is that they're actually not working. So you can see here I'm pressing the pedal, but the lights are not on. And also if I flick the side light switch, they turn on. So it could be a blown fuse or could be something else. But because the brake lights do not work at all and the cruise control also doesn't work, most likely the problem is the brake light switch. So the brake light switch on my car is the passenger side, so this is right hand wheel drive, so it's the passenger side or the left hand side of the car. On some cars, like on my Peugeot Partner 1.6 HDI, is underneath the pedals, something like here. You can see it where the arrow pointing to the switch. So the solution is to replace the brake light switch. And this is how you can do it on Peugeot 307 2007 underneath the passenger footwell. So in the passenger footwell you've got these plastic clips that you need to remove, and I've got two for that. Simply put it underneath there, pull it out, and it comes out that easy. And then you undo them all, and then this cover or cowling can be removed, and then you have access to the switch. So the switch, you simply rotate counterclockwise and it pulls out. Then of course you have to unplug it. Unplugging the switch, hopefully you can see it. There is a small tab here that you kind of press like that and it should be able to pull out. So there is this tab that you squeeze and it pulls out. So let's have a look at this switch, the brake switch. I'll have a zoom version on that with all the numbers. Down here is a picture. So these are four contacts there. If you look at like that, this side, so the first one is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So they go in pairs, so 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4. It's a kind of a double brake switch. So in other words, so there is a plunger here that's self-adjusting, so if you pull this out, it kind of pulls out, and it presses when you can push it a bit more depending on where the brake pedal is, whatever the travel is there. So between the first and the second pin there should be zero resistance. When you press the plunger or when you brake, this becomes 100% and breaks the connection between these two. So the third and the fourth, they should be broken, no connection, and then when you press, kind of the brake presses the plunger, this becomes zero resistance. Well, that's it, that's this brake light switch. So I'll measure with a multimeter between the first and the second, and then pressing it as well, holding it there, and to measure that this is zero and so on, and the third and the fourth. I've already done that when I took it out. Between the first and the second there was slightly more resistance. It wasn't really zero, it was 0.3 ohms. But with playing around and plunging, making the plunger, it actually now reads quite good. And this is kind of intermittent. The fault with this brake light switch, it's a bit intermittent. Sometimes my cruise control doesn't work or the lights, and I know I have to fix it. So it's kind of intermittent. There is some connection inside that doesn't quite work. But let's measure it now. Kind of resistant, the first, and I'll hold it like, you can't quite see it, but it's the first and the second pin, and I'll hold it like that because I'll press on the plunger. So first and the second resistance should be, well, it's 0.01. And then if you press it, it becomes 1, it kind of breaks the connection. Between the third and the fourth, it's no connection, 100% resistance, but when you press it, it should come to 0. And that works quite well with this switch, but it's kind of, I have this intermittent problem, so I'll replace it with a new switch. So I bought this switch from Febi. You probably can't quite see the numbers, but they're down in the description of the video, kind of the same. Or it's the same for Peugeot, Citroen, fairly the same. You always have to kind of inspect if they look the same. This is slightly on the longer side, the plastic goes there, but if you press the plunger a bit, it will shrink down. So for example, it's self-adjusting, so you don't need to press it. When you screw it, and turn it on the first brake, this will kind of get shorter like that. Like it will get shorter like that by the brake pedal, so they're kind of roughly the same size, and when you press it like that. I also will measure the first and the second and third and fourth pins, but I've already done that and they're actually good, the same as that one, but that has some sort of intermittent problem. Well, now fitting it back together. So fitting it back together is kind of the reverse procedure. You plug first this in, and it's just a simple plug in like that. If you look at it like that, there are two pointy plastic bits like here and here, so you have to match it to the socket and then turn it clockwise. That's fairly easy actually. You put it like that, you put it the other way around, and then it can get turned like that, and turn it around, and that's that. The switch has been replaced. Make sure that it's nice and secure. And now to go for test drive and see if the cruise control works and my lights work. And after replacing the brake light switch, the cruise control works, keeps up 50 miles an hour without a problem, works straight away. I also tested the rear brake lights, and if you can see here, when I press the pedal, they really switch on the headlights. So this is it. If your cruise control shows an intermittent fault or doesn't work at all, check your rear brake lights if they work at all. If they don't work, then it's most likely the brake switch, which is the driver's side or the passenger side, depends where your car was produced, whether right-hand drive or left-hand drive. Check those. Regularly check your rear brake lights anyway, but it's a good indication that the brake light switch is broken or there is something wrong with it if your cruise control doesn't work and your brake lights do not work. Hopefully somebody finds this useful. Thank you very much indeed.